Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about what I think is our biggest problem that we are experiencing. Not even COVID, believe it or not. We have a bigger problem than that to deal with. Now, this bigger problem we are going to deal with is the denial. That is the single biggest problem in our society, the denial, and from that denial is born the wishing away things or explaining away things as if nothing bad is happening, and it's a very, very dangerous situation to be in. So, in the face of blatant abuse of governmental power, blatant abuse of the big tech giants who are censoring things, and multinationals who are completely benefiting from all of this COVID situation, in the face of all of that, we still think that the government, the big tech industry, the companies, multinationals are all doing this for our benefit. They're doing this to help us, the people. The government in the 20th century some of them did not do very well in the helping their own citizens department. It was one of the bloodiest centuries on record for people being killed by their own governments. And if we think that that can't happen here, and by here I mean wherever you are, it doesn't even matter where you are in the world, if you exist and you are in a democratic environment, the chances that you can go over to a tyrannical mode are very high, and it can happen so fast you won't even believe it. So the problem is now we have evidence that it's no longer about COVID. I already made a video about that. Please feel free to go look it up. Oh, and by the way, I have started to put my videos on both BitChute and Rumble. So don't be shy. Come on over and give me a rumble over there on that platform. They don't seem to be deleting, suppressing videos the way that that unfortunately YouTube has decided to do. And YouTube, the judgment of future generations upon YouTube won't be very kind, I can tell you that. So what we are doing is we are explaining away these tyrannical moves. So for example, I'm going to give you a few descriptions of what the tyrannical moves are, and then how we're explaining them away. And I'll give a major example of how this happened in the past and can absolutely be repeated. So the lockdowns, for example, that is a tyrannical. So lockdowns, it's taking healthy people and confining them to their homes. So completely anti-freedom, blatant abuse of governmental power that they can even get away with that. And another example is the mass testing of healthy people, where they're going to make it mandatory to get tested. For now, I'm in Canada. In Canada, you can still decide if you want to go get tested. If you don't, there's measures in place, like your employer won't let you come back to work, or your employer won't pay you to stay at home and take care of people that have COVID. So if you have the flu, just the flu, your employer won't pay you to stay home and take care of your people. But if you have COVID, or somebody has COVID and they have the test, then they'll pay you. So it's very tyrannical, and the governments are encouraging this, and the businesses are following suit. The massive state-run propaganda that we have now. So examples of that include the complete ignoring of anything that is not the vaccine. So according to the mainstream media, the governments and the multinationals, the only outcome for this will be the vaccine. And it's a vaccine you're going to have to get every year, twice a year. I don't know how many doses they're going to come out with, but every year you're going to have to go do it again and again and again. It's going to be forced vaccination. So the media is completely ignoring any other therapeutics. They're ignoring any other medical evidence that comes out that says you might want to look at vitamin D. That's an example. The World Health Organization doesn't even want to recommend that. But there are many doctors that are trying to come out and say this, but they're being banned all over. So you're not hearing about that. And notice that. Notice that if you listen to CBC, MSNBC in the States, anywhere, you won't hear anything about the vaccines, anything else than the vaccines. It's only, and all of it is in the vaccine. So very dangerous, and that's evidence, again, that it is state-run propaganda. The forced mask wearing, that one I also did a video on, because you can watch it. That one really irks me. But again, this is where your body is being taken over. So the vaccine will take it over fully. The mask is the step one. It's the preamble to the future vaccine. It's the testing ground to see how many people will comply, really. And then the removal of private property. So what I mean by that is now currently there is going to start being, so the fines, for example, they're taking away your money via fines. So anytime they can get away with giving you a fine for whatever non-law you didn't break, they're going to do it. They just went after our guns. So in Canada, we have, the list came out right at the start of this pandemic saying all of these guns need to be removed. You need to send them back in. So they're going after, so this is legally earned and bought property. And now the government is confiscating it. So that is the confiscation of private property. That is scary as hell, guys. If you think that is okay and nothing further is going to happen, you're dead wrong. That is just the first step of the stuff they're going to come and take from you. So your money, and then they're going to take your guns, and then they're going to come after more stuff, right? Because part of the communist agenda, which is what's going on, there's a whole worldwide communist agenda they're trying to roll out, and using COVID, COVID, come over here, we're going to take you and repackage you as this deadly thing, and we're going to scare the masses into just accepting the loss of our freedoms, and we're going to head to communism that way. So that's what's happening. Now, I think that we're in denial, and we just accept it because it's too hard to face that reality. It's easier to say, whatever, you're such a conspiracy theorist, than to say, oh, maybe that person has something that we should listen to. It's much easier to take the route of these people are crazy than, to open your mind up to think maybe something is wrong. And that's kind of a self-preservation mechanism. So on one hand, I do somewhat understand that, but I don't think it should be applied. I understand it. I don't agree with it. I don't agree that you should just go along with it because it's easier to be lulled into this compliance, lulled into complacency that the world is okay, and after this, it'll go back to normal. It's easier to think that. I get that. But it's not the right thing to do. This is exactly the mentality that allows these governments to take more freedoms away from you. And think about this. They have taken away your freedom to celebrate Christmas with your family. That is unheard of in any of our democratic societies. I don't even think Hitler did that, to be honest. Like there's no, like he did far worse. Trust me, I'm not trying to say we're worse than Hitler. But I think there are some things that even he didn't do that might be happening or are starting to happen right now. So very scary situation. So I know that we don't want to think the government has a nefarious agenda, but there is ample evidence that they do. In fact, Trudeau himself has come out saying that we're doing the Great Reset. He said it, not me. So you can't attack me in the comment section here saying, oh, it's false news, you're fear-mongering. Trudeau himself said it. You can go Google it. Google Trudeau Great Reset. You will see that it's part of his speech. And he did, I think it was November he did that. So we're heading for that. And the Germany example is the easiest one to compare to when it comes to science. So part of my university education when I was in university is I did a course from the sciences in the USSR between the two revolutionary period. It was one course, and it was between 1917 all the way up to 1991. And what I learned in that, this was USSR, but it's also what happened in Germany. When you have a tyrannical government, an authoritarian government, and they take over science, what happens is the science has to go in the direction that the government wants it to. It cannot be the scientific method. So in a democratic environment where you have free thinkers and open science, the scientists tend to follow the scientific method, the hypothesis, and then they do the testing, and then they come to a conclusion. And the conclusion is not based on the hypothesis, it's based on the testing. Whereas if you're in a authoritarian environment, the government takes over all of the science and they decide what we're going to do about it. And this is what's happening right now with COVID. Oh my God, this video is so going to get banned on YouTube. I am almost sure of it. So Rumble, guys, come on and BitChute. Okay, so the government has taken over the whole processing of COVID. And that's where it's very dangerous. So instead of relying on the private industry to figure something out, let the free market take care of this, the governments have said, we're going to take over COVID. So basically, they have predetermined the outcome. They've predetermined the narrative. And they're working towards that. So the scientific evidence means nothing to them. This is why people go, why aren't they looking at therapeutics? Why aren't they looking at therapeutics? It's because within a government, a tyrannical environment, that's what's happening. They don't care what really happens about science. They don't care. They want what they want. The governments want this X outcome to happen, and they're going to work towards it. So the scientists in this kind of environment, scientists are either coerced into working for the government, or they're paid. So USSR, a lot of scientists were coerced. They were taken and they were told, you're going to work on this for the government. And so they went to the different universities and they picked the people they wanted, and they said, you either go to the gulag or you work for us. And they did it with engineers, everybody, right? Doctors. And same thing in Nazi Germany. They said, our science believes that the impure people, the Jews are part of that, but also all the people who are considered imbeciles or malformation, slow people. They had all these categories of how to classify. So anybody that wasn't completely perfect, blonde hair, strong, blue eyes, complete picture of health, anybody who was not in there was considered impure. And they had decided that that was the outcome. We're going to make sure that we deal with the impure people. So it didn't matter if somebody was born with Down syndrome in Germany, and they could have had a very nice life and, contributed to society in their own way, or somebody who's autistic or somebody who's missing a limb. It didn't matter to the Germans under Nazi Germany, because what mattered to them was anybody who's impure needs to be eliminated. And they kind of left it up to the discretion of the healthcare workers, which is why it's so scary. They would actually pay. So for example, here's an example of how they would pay a healthcare worker. So you had midwives, and the midwives would get paid if they were reporting any birth of a malformed baby. Can you imagine that? They would be paid by the state. So this is very, very similar to how COVID, if you're a hospital and you declare that you have X amount of COVID cases, you get this amount of money from the government. It's the same scenario. Circumstances are different. One is racial, one is healthcare disease, like a endemic disease, right? Virus. But it's the same thing. We are doing the same thing the Germans did in the 30s and 40s. There is no difference. Same. And this is the scariest part, because people don't understand or don't read about it or don't care to read about it. And that's fine. If you don't care to learn about what happened under these authoritarian regimes, that's fine. But it's kind of dumb to come and yell at me. I know about this stuff. I literally study this stuff. And I'm trying to convey that message out there, that what is happening is eerily similar to what happened under other totalitarian regimes of the 20th century. And we are in denial about it. We just do not want to confront the fact that we have a growingly authoritarian government, even here in Canada, supposed to be some kind of beacon of freedom. Not anymore. So, anyways, this is the way it is now. Let me know what you think in the comments section. If you agree that this whole denial is the danger that we're in, or if you see something else that's a bigger danger. And just remember, you can vote your way into socialism, but you're going to have to shoot your way out. And I know we don't have guns in Canada, but by shoot your way out, it's a metaphor to say you're going to have to get out of it very violently. There will be no peaceful resolution to get out of communism. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.